Hi, I'm Melanie. Welcome to my channel. So, I'm on here today to talk about expectations, attachments, and attachments to outcomes when it comes to this connection and the journey, and how having these can really hold you back from making progress on the journey. From the beginning, because you would have been believing it was a romance or relationship that was developing between you and your divine masculine, it would have felt natural to have expectations and to be forming attachments. Because almost immediately you will have had this strong connection to your divine masculine, and you would have been developing extremely deep feelings towards them. So it would have caused you to believe it was a relationship. And this is perfectly understandable, being that you would have been heavily in the mind. Because the mind and ego loves to label things and to put things into boxes. So it will want to label the connection. It will label it a relationship or a romance because it will feel like this. And this is how the mind works and what the mind does. So it can make sense of something. The egoic mind also judges and makes assumptions. It bases everything on the five senses and what it can see in the external world. It sees everything in duality and so therefore separate. It lives in the future and the past, so it will base things on what happened in the past on as to what will happen in the future, and so will constantly be making plans. And so all this is what causes you to believe you are in a relationship, believing it's a romance, which will automatically cause you to believe it's going to go somewhere, because that's what normally or generally happens in relationships. And so therefore, you will have expectations. And the ego, being attached to the mind and being fear-based, likes to feel safe. And so because the mind believes everything that you need comes from the external world, like your sense of self-worth, feeling validated, feeling loved and accepted, all comes from others, your egoic mind quickly forms attachments to people, places, situations, scenarios, and possessions. So you can see that when you meet your divine masculine, you will quickly have expectations and be forming attachments within the connection with what you are believing is a relationship. You will have scenarios playing out in your mind of how things will play out and when. And because of how you feel when you are around or with your divine masculine, or, even when you are just messaging each other, you will soon become very attached to needing them in your lives in some way. Especially as when you meet your divine masculine, you will also be in your wounded aspect. So you will be feeling a need to be fulfilled because of feeling in lack. So, of course, this is what will send you down that road of having expectations and forming attachments within the connection with the what, why, when, and hows. However, when you have expectations and are forming attachments, you are basically setting yourself up for a fall, because if those expectations aren't met, you can be left feeling at best disappointed and at worst devastated and feeling like you have lost something. And with forming attachments to someone means relying on them in some way and to a greater or lesser extent, which can cause you to become dependent and maybe needy and clingy, because by having attachments to someone can cause you to believe that your sense of self-worth, validation, to feel accepted, and basically your happiness lies with them. This will only lead you to feeling vulnerable, unworthy, and not good enough, and in lack if they leave you, or whilst in a relationship if that person doesn't show up for you in the way you want, which can make you want to hold on tighter, trying to be in control more. So when it comes to your divine masculine and having expectations and forming an attachment to your divine masculine and to the outcome in any way, this can prevent you from moving forward on the journey because it means you're still in the mind. You are still seeing it mainly or only from the physical perspective. Remember, the mind is limited and can only understand this connection from the perspective of seeing everything in duality. And so will see your divine masculine as separate to you and will be convinced it's a relationship. And this will only keep you stuck because when you are getting caught up in the mind, believing that all this plays out in the physical, it will cause you to have expectations about how the relationship will pan out, pinning your hopes on an expectation that your divine masculine will show up for you, maybe in a certain way, and you will form an attachment to your divine masculine, believing you need them in your life, which will lead you to having an attachment to an outcome. And so, of course, it will also mean you will still be believing that your sense of self-worth, fulfillment, validation, and all your happiness lies in the external world. And so all the time you are holding on to an expectation or an attachment means you are not understanding or accepting what the journey is about. Because this journey is not about any of that. This whole journey is about you waking up to the truth. It's showing you that you don't have to live in fear and pain, believing you constantly need to be searching outside of yourself to get from others what you feel is missing so as to feel whole and complete, believing you are unworthy, not capable, feeling not seen or heard or accepted or loved. Because this journey is about you showing up for you and you finding all the love, acceptance, fulfillment, that sense of completeness within. It's a journey of discovering that you have all that you need within you by you connecting and aligning with your soul so you can find your way back to wholeness, oneness and love. And this is when surrendering helps, and why surrendering plays an important part on this journey. Because although surrendering can feel both scary and that you are giving up in some way, it would only feel like that to the egoic mind because the ego is fear-based and so it wants to be in control. So surrendering will set off alarm bells to the mind. Surrendering is about letting go of the need to want to control in any way, and in doing so releasing yourself from all the fear and pain surrounding the need to cling and hold on to tight to by having expectations and forming attachments. You are transcending the ego's need to control and to feel validated by others, which means you are getting out of your own way because you are trusting, you are letting go and surrendering to the divine, surrendering to what is, trusting that everything is happening for your highest good, as much as sometimes it may not seem that way. You are letting go of needing to concern yourself about what may or may not happen in your life and trusting that what is happening is meant to happen and that everything is a lesson and an opportunity to learn and grow. Trusting that the divine only has your best interest at heart and everything will happen in divine timing. Unlike your mind, which lives in the past and the future and believes that your happiness lies in the external world, so expectations and attachments are normal, your soul only lives in the now moment. It's not concerned with yesterday or tomorrow, so no need for expectations. And your soul is love, and so by connecting to your soul, you are connecting to love. This is where you will find the fulfillment, wholeness, oneness and love that you yearn for. So no need to go looking for what you feel you need outside of yourself. Remember, you are on a spiritual journey now. You are having a spiritual awakening so you can release yourself from the restraints of the mind and ego and free yourself from the false narratives of the 3D matrix world. You no longer need to hold on to those outdated beliefs and conditionings that kept you believing that you were small and limited, that you had to do things in a certain way or be a certain way. And having expectations and forming attachments are a part of those. I'm not saying that any of this is easy, because we've all been so programmed, and at first it can be hard to know how not to have expectations and not to form attachments. And so it's not going to happen overnight. It's a process. So it's about taking small steps. But by starting to take those first few steps, you will begin to release yourself from having expectations and forming attachments. And this will help you to progress on the journey. Anyway, there was a lot of information there, so I hope it all made some sense to you, and you can see how expectations and attachments can hinder you making progress and how surrendering can help. Anyway, that's all for me today. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now, and blessed be.